No one really talks about what happens to a woman after divorce. Not the surface stuff, not the fake new chapter posts, but the silent storm that starts when the noise fades. It's not revenge. It's not regret. It's psychological collapse disguised as freedom. We live in a world, don't we, that loves a clean narrative, a triumphant comeback story, especially after something as messy and painful as a divorce. For women, the expectation, almost the cultural mandate, is to rise from the ashes, shed the old skin, and emerge glowing and unburdened, ready for her best life. You see it everywhere. The carefully curated Instagram posts, the confident smiles, the declarations of newfound independence. And for a while, for a significant, intoxicating while, it can genuinely feel that way. She feels unstoppable, finally free, finally herself, as if she stepped out from under a suffocating weight. But what she's really feeling, what's coursing through her veins, is often not true peace, but a potent cocktail of relief and a rush of dopamine. It's the intoxicating hit of immediate gratification, the sudden permission to explore parts of herself that might have been dormant or suppressed within the confines of a marriage. This initial burst of energy, it's powerful, it's seductive. She might rediscover old hobbies, cultivate new friendships, change her appearance, travel spontaneously. And with each new experience, with every like on a social media post, with every encouraging word from friends and family, a new form of oxygen begins to fill her lungs. Validation. Validation, you see, becomes her new oxygen, and attention, a constant stream of it, replaces the quiet intimacy she once knew. It's a quick fix, an immediate balm for the wound she hasn't even begun to truly acknowledge. This isn't inherently bad, of course. We all seek validation to some extent. But in this immediate aftermath, when the internal compass is still spinning wildly, external validation can become a substitute for genuine self-worth, a superficial shield against deeper insecurities. She doesn't realize yet, in that initial euphoria, that freedom without a sturdy foundation, without a deep sense of self that's independent of external input, quickly turns into emotional vertigo. It's like being set adrift in a vast, beautiful ocean without a map or a rudder. The views are incredible, the sense of space exhilarating, but the underlying current, the profound disorientation, is always there, waiting to pull her under. This initial phase, it's a delicate dance between genuine liberation and the seductive lure of temporary highs. It's often the hardest time to truly assess what's happening beneath the surface, because the world, and she herself, is so invested in the narrative of strength and resilience. But this intoxicating rush, this beautiful, overwhelming explosion of new beginnings, it's not sustainable, is it? Because every high has its inevitable come down. And then a funny thing happens, or perhaps not so funny at all. After weeks, sometimes months, of frantic distraction, of social noise, of constantly doing and being seen, the silence hits. It might be on a quiet Tuesday evening, or a Sunday afternoon, or in the dead of night, when the phone has finally stopped buzzing and the last friend has gone home. That's when the memories she thought she had successfully buried, the routines she believed she had erased, the arguments she had consciously tried to forget, they start to echo, not as loud, furious shouts, but as soft, insistent whispers. Your routines, your presence, even the comfortable familiarity of your arguments, they were all anchors, weren't they? And now those anchors are gone. She's no longer escaping you. She's escaping the profound, unsettling void that formed when you disappeared, when the accustomed rhythm of her life suddenly went mute. This emotional withdrawal is a different kind of pain, sharper and more insidious than the initial shock of the divorce itself. It's the body and mind's belated recognition of a major loss, even if that loss was necessary, even if it was desired. Think of it like a form of grief, but one that's often culturally suppressed. We're allowed to mourn a death, but a divorce? That's supposed to be a triumph, a new beginning. How can you grieve a new beginning? But the truth is, divorce is the death of 1,000 small things. The shared jokes, the inside references, the unspoken understandings, the way you fit together on the couch, the plan for next Christmas, the future you had envisioned. Now the truth, slow and insidious, begins to creep in. It wasn't just the marriage she lost. It was a deeply ingrained, familiar version of herself, a self that in many ways only existed with you there. We construct our identities, don't we? Through our relationships, through the roles we play, through the way others perceive us. For years, perhaps decades, she was a wife, a partner, part of a we. Her dreams, her plans, her daily routines, her very sense of purpose were interwoven with yours. Now, that intricate tapestry has been unraveled. She stands before the mirror, not just looking at her reflection, but gazing into an existential abyss. Every "I'm okay" she's uttered to friends, to family, to herself, turns into a quiet, desperate, "Who am I now?" This is what we call the mirror phase, a profound period of identity crisis. It's not about her physical appearance, although that might be part of it as she tries to redefine her outer self. It's about the internal landscape. She might find herself struggling to make simple decisions because for so long, decisions were either joint or made with the unspoken consideration of another person's needs or opinions. What are her hobbies now, truly? What does she want for dinner? What kind of future does she envision without the constraint or comfort of a shared vision? The person she was, the wife identity, offered a certain clarity, a certain framework for existence. It gave her a defined role, a social status, a narrative. Without that, she is navigating uncharted waters with no clear map. This can manifest in a profound sense of self-doubt, a feeling of being unmoored. She might try on different personas, different versions of herself, experimenting with new styles, new groups of friends, new careers, hoping to stumble upon the real her. But often, these experiments feel hollow because the foundation, the core sense of self, is still shaking. The psychological glue that held her previous identity together has dissolved, and she's left to piece together a new one, brick by painful brick. It's a terrifying freedom, this sudden lack of definition, and the mirror doesn't lie anymore. It shows her not just a face, but a story that's abruptly ended and a new blank page stretching out before her. It reveals the uncomfortable truth that she has to redefine herself, not just for others, but for herself from the ground up. But the mirror, it only shows you what's on the surface, what you've become in its immediate reflection. It doesn't tell you what's coming, the unavoidable confrontation with everything you've avoided. Eventually, inevitably, reality catches up. The initial burst of support, the friends who hyped her up and celebrated her new beginning, they've moved on back to their own lives, their own routines. The validation, the constant stream of attention that once felt like oxygen, begins to fade. becoming sporadic, less potent. The party, as it were, eventually ends, and that's when the loneliness, previously held at bay by activity and affirmation, truly grows teeth. It sinks in, deep and painful, revealing the gaping chasm between the curated image and the quiet reality. This is the reckoning. This is where the rubber meets the road. The illusion of instant freedom, the dopamine hit, the borrowed identity, they all dissipate, leaving her face to face with the raw, unvarnished truth of her situation. This is where the cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort of holding contradictory beliefs, becomes unbearable. For so long she's told herself and everyone else, "I'm fine, I'm thriving, I'm so much happier." But internally, the reality of her emotional landscape often tells a very different story. The clash between the external performance and the internal pain creates a profound sense of exhaustion and despair. She realizes that the new chapter was just a clever title for a blank page, and there's no instruction manual for filling it. The responsibility for her happiness, for her future, rests entirely on her shoulders. And that can feel like an immense, crushing weight after years of shared burdens. And that's when she faces the hardest truth of all, that true healing isn't about moving on from you, it's about moving into herself, about rebuilding what she unknowingly destroyed or allowed to atrophy inside herself. It's about confronting the parts of her identity that were sacrificed, not just for the marriage, but perhaps even before, for the sake of fitting in, for the sake of being loved. It's about realizing that the validation she sought externally was a poor substitute for internal self-acceptance. This is where the work truly begins, the often lonely, arduous process of introspection, of understanding her own desires, fears, and values, independent of another person's influence.